for a guy that's been working as diligently as Trill has. He's really, he was an example of a player early on that I could tell in the healthy way that he wasn't totally happy with where he was at in terms of depth, and you want to talk about an example of a player handling that the right way, transferring that energy to the point that he's been making plays daily on the ball, and you can tell from his teammates how pumped they were for him. So, it's one of the hard things about the profession that I really struggle with when I see that happen to someone. At the same time, I think he's proven, time and time again that things of that nature won't keep him back over the long haul. The challenge is to make that thing happen for a good reason and come back stronger and better. But it's something that I think it hurt the hearts of the whole team, myself included. With regard to Eric Rowe, he's been, getting pretty involved in the defense in a good way, and I kind of like where he's at in terms of his play, and he kind of there's a new side of him that was kind of displayed in the joint practices. I was talking to the team about the salty side of Rowe, and he was getting competitive, and it was really cool to see. I like where he's at right now in his position. I do think he does have versatility that you could go down that road if need be, but right now we're just evaluating a couple guys, and then we'll, as Chris and his department always does for the cornerback position, we'll be in discussion of how to handle some of these injuries and moving forward, what we need to continue to develop and not overdo the other existing corners on the roster.
Forgive me, I don't know your total number on the roster right now, but I know cut downs are coming. I think it's Tuesday. Where are you guys in that evaluation process?
No, that's something that we talk a lot about people getting opportunities every day and how valuable, and every practice is so valuable, and every opportunity is so valuable. So it's a balance where going into preseason game before you know that there's a cut, you're kind of saying the state of the union right then, fully knowing that when there's opportunities in front of people, you don't make your mind up because you learn so much about players each and every time they're out on the field, specifically when you have to handle the emotions of a game. So that we're long discussions last week, and then some discussions that we started today, but then we're careful, this is their livelihoods, and it's also the team and organization. These are big decisions that when you have a competitive, talented roster like we have that they've built here, and that we're growing right now, you don't take them lightly at all. So you discuss them. We discussed more today, but we'll sleep on it. Further discussion comes tomorrow. It's just a constant communication with Chris and myself, as well as the coordinators and position coaches for every real decision that we make. And to the team's credit, it's not easy, and that's a good thing for the Dolphins. There's no-brainer, oh yeah, this guy is a fish out of water. No, it's far from that. So we'll continue to discuss that before we make those final decisions, which are tough, and that's good.
My two-part question about I'm stealing Barry's thing. The first one's very quick. Greg Little's absence last night, was that injury related? And also, how would you describe his performance at camp so far?
Oh, okay. That's 1.5, and I'm okay. 1.5 I can handle. No, the reason we didn't totally know that he wasn't going to play. He's been day to day, and so you're trying to position him to be ready to play in the game, but then at the last second, when it comes time for the game, you have to decide, is this a fair representation for the player? Because you don't want to put them out there, and then after the game be like, well, he was playing through an injury in the preseason right now, because that just confuses you more. So he'd been really doing well, flashing some stuff, gaining some confidence that he should have, and he deserves, and we didn't want to compromise that confidence by putting him out there before he's ready. So he's really day to day, and we'll continue that evaluation so that we can get the right Greg Little out there on the field.
Coach, you want to stay on the offensive line, and we've been a lot of excitement about Rob Hunt, Austin Jackson, from yourself, Chris Greer. The guys themselves have been very excited about their work in this system. Now that you have, I think, 13 snaps of game tape, what's kind of your take on what they put on tape last night?
It was really cool because of how they have developed, where it's the first opportunity. These guys we talk about deliberate practice a bunch, and I was talking to the team today about it, that the idea of deliberate practice is so that in the games, it's just virtually another practice, that you're putting yourself in game situations all the time. And so there was really, out of those 13 snaps, probably for all three of those guys, there would have been like 10 pluses. And then the 3 minuses were all things that they've executed against our defense in practice, whether it's combinations or pass pro sets, that maybe were a little off. So it was awesome for those young dudes to get that feeling, for us to say, hey, why is this different? Okay, it shouldn't be. You should have all the confidence. It should feel the same as practice for you, and that's the goal. That the spectacle that is a game isn't anything but doing our craft that we do every day. So it got us a chance to revisit kind of the primary pillars of philosophy of how we go about our business. I think they felt it, but they didn't lose confidence. It was like, oh yeah, and we're at a good spot with them because of that.
You said at halftime yesterday, I think it was halftime, you talked about how you weren't necessarily nervous because football is what you're good at. So I guess now that you've had a night to process last night's game, your first chance at being a head coach, how are you feeling about your performance and just about that moment for you in general?
Yeah, I think it was more that I'm not good at anything else. It was less of like, yeah, I'm good. No, but it is where I am comfortable. I think you guys can feel that. And, I'm not going to hide from it at all. There's a lot of things, and I'm not going to necessarily have this whole dialogue about how terrible I am, but there's a lot of things that I'm like, yeah, that's not what I hope it to be. Which, it was ironic. I knew that going into it. I'm like, yeah, this is not, it's an odd thing to be excited for something, but also know, hey, yeah, I'm about to go not put my best foot forward or my final product forward. So just like the players, there's a lot of things, and I think that's important as a coach, to identify and be transparent with that with your players. Of like, hey, yeah, this wasn't good enough. This shortchanged you in one way, shape, or form. To say that I'm excited because it's over, because I wanted to identify exactly where that I just wanted to get to that point as fast as possible. And hey, okay, well, did this, now I can get better at this, and I can manage this better, I can communicate this better, this decision could be better, all of those things. So yeah, it's what I expected, and I expected to get a C on the math test. And I got the C, and so I'm like, yeah, cool. Now I can work towards getting a B or an A someday, if you guys allow it.
I know some offensive line coaches talk about playing the 5 best guys when they have injuries. I was curious your feeling on that issue with regard to tackle. So if Teron, God forbid, if he misses any games this year, would you think, and I don't know how much you'll want to talk about this for competitive reasons, I just want to throw it out there, would you be of the mindset to potentially either move Austin or Liam from positions where they've played since May and have developed real good consistency to left tackle if need be, or do you believe it's best to leave them where they are if they're thriving at those spots and play a natural left tackle if Teron needs to miss time?
So that's there's a starting point to that, but I think absolutes are a dangerous place because if you just live in that, then what about the exception that flourishes? But from a starting point, it kind of has to do with the combination of your combinations of players, because if the starting point for me is that moving a player that's in a spot where he's being productive, now you just have two spots that are less than what you know, as opposed to just having one thing that you can work around. But there are exceptions to that. Left tackle is an interesting one because you can, with the edge rushers in this league, you can go from sack fumble to completion explosive with there's just so much space. So that I would say from a starting point, I would try not to move a starter to out of their position to cover up another position. But that I wouldn't say would be an absolute, because you just have to think through, know the pros and cons, and kind of address it the best you can. And I guarantee there'll be a situation where I will go back on that statement at some point in time, because I don't believe in just being like, all right, this is my philosophy, brain shut off. You know what I mean?
I want to ask you about Teddy. I didn't see him practice on Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't play in the game. Was any of that injury related, or just he's a veteran and we really wanted to see Skylar for 2 days?
Yeah, he had a little back tightness to a degree on the practice day, but it wasn't anything major. We saw it as an opportunity to get Skylar some reps in practice, and then Skylar's ability to handle those reps, all important reps with the twos. And we kind of just got thinking, you know what? Here's an opportunity to do something that you don't generally get, which is, I think I've talked about it before, but I had one experience with Sage Rosenfels when I was coaching in Houston, and Sage's point to me that always stuck out with me was like, yeah, I'm so much better coming in as a reliever. It's so different when you're not preparing as a starter and then in game you come in and play. But then when you have, whether it's a night or a week to prepare as the starter, for whatever reason, it's just a different set of circumstances that psychologically Sage was like, I didn't flourish in. And that always stood out to me, because like, I wouldn't know that, but it was like, that's probably real. And I think that over time you can look at quarterback success and see that that is more common than not. So I was paying attention to it after he planted that seed. So fast forward to that week, and I was like, wow, here he is operating at a pretty high level. If he does have to play, should circumstances present itself, when else could we have that opportunity where he would be a known starter in a 3 preseason game? That would typically, that would come up in the 4th preseason game, and you could cross that bridge. But 3, you can't really, in conjunction to how Tua is performing, where I thought that the first team quarterback was at, and then that practice, we're like, hey, why not do this and see how he reacts? And we learned a lot about the guy. I think his teammates did too. So it was more really the opportunity to, Teddy started plenty of games, and I think you could see by Skylar's play that, he was pretty ready, although he'll be hard on himself and say there was plenty of stuff that he missed. That was kind of the objective, and I thought he handled it well.
So you wanted him to have the mindset of, okay, I'm going to start.
Right. No, and wear that for preparation, for the night before, for that sleep. That was something that, that like I said, that you just try to observe surroundings, and that's something, it stood out to me so much because I'd never been in that position and I never thought about it that way. So yeah, that was exactly what we thought wow, we can get this opportunity out. Why go play Teddy for a quarter or two when, shoot, are we going to get this up? What if this is the only opportunity we have before live bullets ever down the road? Let's see what this kid's made of.
Like
Two final questions.
for record-keeping purposes, Trill's gonna wind up on IR.
Yeah, I think that's it. I wouldn't go as far to say that just because you're careful not to get ahead of yourself with all the medical opinions that are currently in that process right now. But it seems it does seem severe, and I wouldn't be completely surprised if that was the case. But I wouldn't be willing to stamp that. That'd be kind of inappropriate and a little jumping the gun.
Different topic. On the touchdown pass between Noah and Brandon Jones in the first quarter, was that an MA, a couple of MAs, miscommunication, physical error?
No, it was really, I kind of put it on myself. It's something that the players obviously were teaching them, but at the same time, there's been a tremendous amount of focus on a lot of different football things, and I don't think that they had really gotten enough reps really in that situation. So to be fair to them, it's something that if it happens again, I would be more critical on. But all I talked to Noah during the game is that he can, let it loose, play what he sees, and don't be as conservative. And those are type of things that I'm more worried about them it happening again in this process than on game day. It was definitely a learning moment.
Coach, I think it was back in OTAs you talked about kind of calibrating your aggressiveness on offense to reflect a good defense that you have here. I was curious, when you have a guy like Jason Sanders who's making 4 field goals, 2 from 50 plus down the middle, how does that kind of change the way you see the game or see the field from an offensive aggressive standpoint?
No, it's a great question because it's direct. There's that area of the field where it's third down and you're between the 25 and the 30, and do you want to be aggressive or not? Do you want to put yourself in a situation where maybe you could get an explosive, and you feel a little more willing to do that if the worst case scenario, which I think happened to us twice, the worst case scenario happens, you get sacked. Okay, so that it expands, that you get in that area where you might take yourself out of points. Well, now you have a little deeper area where you can be a little more aggressive, because if you do have the worst case scenario happen, he can get your back, which is what he did last night, which is why it was a team win and something to build upon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Give a pitch while you're coach. 2000.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.